Hello and thank you for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakum. Today on the program, Governor Zulum says Nigeria needs 100,000 new soldiers to defeat Boko Haram as President Buhari's former ADC, Jokolo, demands sack of service chiefs, NSA and Chief of Staff. And later on the show, federal government declares electricity distribution companies as failures, want them to sit up or quit. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade-Otitoju and Dotun Oladipo. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us. Now, if no one cannot see better in the water than the fish, then we can reckon with the verdicts of the governor of Borno State, Professor Babajide Zulum, on the state of insurgency in the northeast. As the man who has witnessed the onslaught of the Boko Haram firsthand, Governor Zulum says it will require recruitment of additional 100,000 soldiers to defeat the insurgents. He said the country cannot win the war with less manpower, technology, and funding. Meanwhile, the crack in the kitchen cabinet of President Buhari has attracted more prying eyes. The president, former ADC, and the 19th Emir of Gwandu in Kebbi State, retired Major General Mustafa Jokolo, demanded the sack of the Tifi National Security Office Advisor and Chief of Staff. But let's hear from Governor Zulum.
Coming down to challenges of the Nigerian military, I think the theater commander can inform me better than my home minister. But to my knowledge, one of the major deficiencies is manpower. They lack manpower. Borno State has a total land mass of over 70,000. And therefore, they need manpower. They need technological warfare. They need logistics. You cannot fight this insurgency to an end without technology, without manpower, without funding. This is very germane. And take my words, that they don't have manpower, they don't have equipment. Can you inform the Speaker, as well as the Senate President, that they should advise the federal government to do mass recruitment of up to 100,000 into the Nigerian army? How? They should come and recruit the locals, irrespective of whether they have the Western education also.
Julie, Governor Zulum there talking about manpower and going as far as saying that they need at least a minimum of 100,000 additional soldiers. Do you think he's in a position to get the inadequacies of the Nigerian army? Not being a military man, a civilian, but he's saying they need at least 100,000 additional manpower.
You see, I've read a few books about warfare, about insurgency. I've been reading Jake's Defense Weekly since I was 12 years because I've always loved the military. And that's the most famous publication on the military, on the face of the
What do you call it?
Jake's Defense Weekly.
Okay.
So I said some time ago that to win this kind of insurgency war, you must outnumber the opponent by a ratio 5-1. We are not in position to outnumber Boko Haram by a ratio 5-1 because we have never put up to 40,000 troops in the northeast at any time.
40,000?
Yes, except if they put them there today. Because I go to the northeast, I interface with soldiers, at every level, that generals or junior soldiers. I know that we have not put up to 40,000 troops on ground in that place. And with that number, the number of troops that we put there, we can't defeat the enemy. It's just a fact. I pity Nigerian soldiers. There are communities that they've had to recapture up to 3 times. Why? Because when you capture that place, when you take the place from the enemy, you secure the place, you move on to somewhere else.
Not that you leave. I mean, not that you leave some people there.
Yes, they will come back. If that place is strategic, you can be sure that they will come back. So Chibok, because they were going to Chibok regularly, is very close to the Sambisa forest. We decided to station troops there. But it has not stopped them from constantly attacking communities around Chibok. Everything boils down to inadequate equipment. I'm happy that this governor also talked about it. I've always talked about the need for equipment. I'm not talking about, when I talk about need for equipment, I'm not talking about small arms. No, it is not small arms that will win the war for us. I'm talking about game-changing equipment. Game-changing equipment, armored tanks, fighter jets, ground attack helicopters. These are the things that can win you this battle. So we do not have enough. It's a fact. The governor is a God-fearing person. He's the son of a cleric. He reminds me of me. Because when you say these things, many people will not be happy. By nature, we don't like the truth. But this is what he's saying. That we don't have enough weapons. I've always said that here. I've always said we have not put enough troops there to guarantee us victory. This is a fact. He's the one who faces this trouble. This governor had to go to Difa prefecture in Niger Republic because there are thousands of Nigerians who are living as IDPs in Niger Republic. Their country is not safe enough for them. So they fled into Niger, they fled into Cameroon and Chad. He went there to distribute food and clothing materials. Do you know that there was stampede and some of them died?
How desperate is this
Because
situation?
they had been literally enveloped by hunger for a long time. And here was someone coming to give them money, coming to give them clothes. They must have felt, when will this kind of opportunity come again? And then there was a struggle. The cost of the struggle, some of them were trampled upon and they died. Our people are going through a lot. There's a video of a woman that I saw. That woman had about 7 kids. About 4 of those kids have been taken away by Boko Haram. She's not sure whether she will ever see them again. Many people have been turned to orphans. Many women have been turned to widows in the theater of war. That the Borno people do not talk all the time or pick up arms to fight the government does not mean that they are not going through hell. In Borno, people are going through hell. People have been in IDP camps for 7 years. 7 years, they are human beings. 7 years, you can imagine. Living from hand to mouth for 7 years. These are people who would like to go back to their ancestral homes. But we have not secured those ancestral homes. If they try it, they will be killed. There was a time that some people, this town called Uba in Borno State, close to the border with Adamawa, the people thought the place was secure. They went back there. And Boko Haram came and slaughtered people. So all those communities must be secure before the people can feel comfortable to go back there. In Borno State, there are hundreds of communities that are not inhabited by people.
Dotun, why do you think it's we are this short of manpower in the Nigerian army Now they seem to be overstretched. They are now even calling off their operations in some states that they've been actively involved. And this governor is now saying we need at least 100,000 more.
I think over the years, what we have failed to do in this country is to act or have a deliberate national defense policy. Even if one exists, what have we done about it? Have we deliberately enforced whatever we've had in that book or booklet? What have we done? The point where we were very proud of our military was in those days when we went to Liberia and Sierra Leone. Extremely proud of them. Because at that point, the equipment that we had, they were still manageable, not as if they were the best at that time. The personnel that we had, they were top-notch. Some of them were going to the US.
Sandust.
To go and even give lectures. They weren't going to receive lectures themselves. They were going there to give lectures. Meaning that these are sound guys that even the US needed. At some point in UN operations, the Nigerian army was voted as the best foot troop in many operations. Meaning that we got it right at some point. But we've lost it now. And unfortunately, what we have done has not only affected the Nigerian army, it's all around our security platform. Babajide was speaking about safeguarding communities that have been taken from Boko Haram. We don't expect that it will be the same soldiers that won this war that will be there to keep the peace. What ordinarily the government said to us was, as soon as we claim a town, the Nigerian civil defense would come in along with the police. But those two, can they even stand the firepower of those we are fighting? It's a no-no. So it means the people who are supposed to be protecting our territorial shores, they are the ones who are doing the internal work. And then no backup. So it's a whole package that we will be looking at. What is our defense policy? Okay. Are we working on it? Should we just be doing the talking? Should we wait until when we have challenges for us to be able to say, okay, this is the way we need to move? It's a general issue that we should be looking at. Because even if you recruit 100,000 soldiers now, you can't win all the communities and keep them there. They are just a waste. So, do we need anything extra? Yes, we do. We need to equip the police. We need to equip the NSCDC.
Jide, a little bit to what will affect the well-being of these people, the field. On the 19th of September, a letter was dated 19th of December by the National Security Advisor was leaked, and it was saying that, look, the service chiefs, and it copied some ministers too, that the service chiefs should not report to the Chief of Staff again. That it is his own purview that we have security matters, that the Chief of Staff is not competent and has been dabbling into security-oriented issues. And a lot of people have said that this is like a confirmation that something unusual is happening in the presidency.
Before now, the National Security Advisor addressed the National Assembly. I think it was the Senate. The Senate sent for them at the height of the insecurity in the country sometime last year. And he said there that the service chiefs will be advised by him, but they will not take his advice.
The service chiefs?
Yes. He said it clearly. I watched him. They said service chiefs were not taking instructions from him. You know, that they were kind of doing what they liked. Now, if you appoint someone to a position, you must empower that person. The way to empower your national security advisor is not for someone who knows nothing about security, who has probably not read any security literature in his life,
But this person
to be the one supervising them. Yes, he may have power, and you know, when people need something, they gravitate towards the person who has power.
yes.
But that's not how
They
a
get
country,
results.
that's not how a country should be run. You can't have a national security advisor who will be undermined by someone else within the government. And the undermining of President Buhari's appointees is a very common thing. It's a very common thing. It happened to the former Minister of State Petroleum.
Petroleum. Kachuku.
And invariably, the letter was also leaked because he had been trying to reach the president and didn't succeed. When eventually the letter was reached, the president waded in, resolved things between him and the former
NNPC boss.
GMD of NNPC. So this is what is happening. President Buhari came out to say, look, now this is my second term. Ministers, you should, if you have issues, you should reach out to
My chief of staff.
chief of staff. I think Abba Kyari now sees himself as the vice president or the deputy to the president by exercising those powers. But I think it's abhorrent for him to be directly supervising service chiefs. And you can see there is something that Mustafa Jokolo, Buhari's former ADC, talked about, that this is wrong because he's not qualified to do that. And there's no general who will feel comfortable, whether he's a retired general or not, that is a civilian who is dabbling into matters that is ignorant about and refusing or encouraging those who ought to take instructions from him to treat him like it's not there. It's a painful thing. If the president doesn't want his NSA anymore, he should remove him and put someone else there. But as long as it's the NSA, there's no reason why it should be undermined. He's holding a very important position. You can imagine how it will be, and I don't think it ever happened, that General Gusau as NSA, that someone else will now be undermining him. Obasanjo was not even here. Yeah, and the president must act decisively when these things happen. Things can be happening within the people who work with you, and then you are aloof. Things can be happening within your party, the party that produced you, and then you are aloof. No, that's unheard of. It's wrong. That is what is encouraging this dysfunctional behavior that we are seeing. And many people in this administration, are using the president's name to give directives, to say the president said I should do this, the president said I should do
drop his name.
When that is actually not the case. And there's no reason why people who are high up as the NSA, should not have direct access to the president. Given the kind of the position that I occupy, and given the fact that security has collapsed in our country, I'm not about to dress it up and make it smell like roses. No, security has collapsed in our country. Given where we are, given where we have found ourselves, there's no reason why somebody holding that position
be interfacing with the president
regularly. Because you may not have officially reappointed him, but you told him to continue the job. So if you told him to continue the job, then he should have a direct access to you. He should be able to have access to you. Civilians who are not elected, who are not doing anything that we know, anything official, they have access to you. They have unfettered access. So why shouldn't someone who is occupying the position of national security advisor, not state advisor, national security advisor, why shouldn't he have access to you? Why should we be hearing that these things are happening? It's very disappointing.
Dotun, it's like President Buhari is not is not firmly in charge. The 9th Senate, I mean the 8th Senate, led by Bukola Saraki, alleged during his time that there are some people within the presidency that might have hijacked this presidency. And the way we are saying things, yes, President Buhari has said it several times that, look, it's not that nobody is acting on his behalf, that he's fully in charge, but it doesn't show.
Well, I think it's just a usual attitude of having laws, having processes, having institutions in place, but not allowing them to function. There are the way we know things run in this country, which they did in the past, was that everybody performs his own task. If it gets to a point where one man wants to amass all the power, then this is the kind of result we'll be getting. If, like I said earlier, we focus on what we call our defense policy and we operate by it, we shouldn't be where we are. We know the structure in the military. We know the way it runs. We know the number one man, we know who is number two, who is number three, and then down that way. Even when you look at it now, you'll see very clearly that even the services are not working together. Everybody is running on his or her own. What it means is, it is now time for politicking.
There's no coordination.
It's all about politics. Who can resolve my issue?
Okay, let me pick this call. I have Kennedy from Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining us, Ken. Hello, Kennedy. I don't think Kennedy is there again. Okay.
From what we have seen, including another allegedly leaked document, contracts are being signed through a particular office in the presidency. Is that the way it should go? The Federal Executive Council sits every week and approves this and that and that. So, I mean, why are we not coordinating these things properly? It all boils down to having turned our security into politics.
But don't you think the buck stop on one man's table?
Yes, it should.
Hitting the nail by the head.
It should. It should stop. But we have seen that has not worked.
We voted for President Buhari, not
Yes, we voted for President Buhari. I agree with you. It was President Buhari we voted for. And that's why everyone is always insisting that he should do something. Because the buck stops at his table. So he should be able to order these things the way we have all of these things on paper, like we have said. These are things that we all know. If it's the security architecture, once you take the NSA, you come to the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff. We know the hierarchy, but are they talking to themselves? I once said here on this program, when you look at the war against Boko Haram, there is a central command that is called the Operation Lafayette Daily. How does it work? I'm amazed when I see the Army issue a statement. I see the Air Force issue a statement. And you begin to wonder, the same war, the same operation, and you are seeing things from different angles. Like I said, the best of our years was when we went to Liberia. You could see it when Nigeria was in charge in Liberia. It was Brigadier General Chris Olukolade who was talking on behalf of ECOMOG. If the Air Force goes somewhere to record a success, it is Chris. It was General Chris who issued the statement.
Okay, let's quickly take this. Brother, when we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Thank you for joining us. This is Journalist Hangout. Babajide, we're talking about the rumble within the presidency. And when you want to look at it, we've had a time that it was the DSS, the Director General of the DSS versus the EFCC boss at any given time. So it's very difficult, and that thing will linger, it will fester before anybody, NIA, different instances. And the way President Buhari stands aloof, I don't know. And nobody in the presidency, we've seen this leaked memo, Femi Adesina, Gabashew, nobody has said anything about this impasse.
But they cannot say anything unless they are told to say something. Except Garbashew or the other fellow wants to be kicked into touch, like a football. They have to be told before they can respond. That's the nature of their work. If you go there and you decided to say something and it goes against the grain, it goes against what the big man would have loved you to say, then your job is gone. So they are not fools. They would rather wait and watch. When they are mandated to say something, they will then go and talk. And it's not the first time that this whole thing will happen and you will not hear them utter a word. Remember when it was speculated that the president was going to marry the humanitarian affairs minister. Mom was the word, and that was what angered Buhari's wife. Yeah. And they said, what is their duty? If they cannot defend
protect their husband.
They knew this thing was not true, but they all kept quiet. But that is, by the way, what bothers me is the NSA statement that by Abakari's actions is hampering the war against terror or the war against insecurity in our land. That is where I'm bothered. Whatever they need to do to make us defeat insecurity, they have to do it. That is what concerns us. On the issue of insecurity, the government is failing. You know, even the best defender of the government will find it difficult to defend the killings,
all over the
killings in our country. They would rather keep quiet, you know, than to defend the killings. How do you defend the killings in our country? How do you defend the killing of people in the president's home state, for example,
Katsina,
or in Kaduna, where bandits will break into people's homes and take them away? There's nowhere else that I see that happen. In people's homes, you break their door, you steal human beings like commodity.
It's like a failed state.
So it's not a failed state. It's not a failed state. The government is getting it right in other areas. El-Rufai has capacity, no doubt about it. I may not always agree with him. But the truth is, in the area of security, I want him to do more. I will not say I expect him to do more. I want him to do more. And I will continue to talk about it until I see that there's improvement in security. Because those people being killed are human beings like me. John Donne said that if it's diminished anytime a human being is killed. That is the way I feel too. I feel like John Donne. I get diminished when a human being is slaughtered like a ram. So this is the thing. Defeat those idiots who are killing people in Kaduna, and I'll be happy. I'll stop talking about it. That's why you don't see me talking about Zamfara like before.
In Niger State too.
Yes. Niger is just like Kaduna State. And it's extremely difficult for the police because of its size and all that. So the Shiroro area, bandits are running riot. This is the thing. Let us defend our country a lot more. Let's protect our people a lot more. I believe that a time will come, or a time should come, when even the NYC scheme, we should have a second look at it. Can we give those young people military training? That's the way it's done in other countries of the world, so that they become reservists. Today, if there's going to be a war in Israel, they know that the regular army cannot protect the state, but they have reservists. Those are people who have attained the age when they must do compulsory national service. And their own compulsory national service means that they have to get military training. So that when war comes, they go and bring them. They go and bring them.
Dotun?
Because in reality, let me take off from there. As at 2016, the figure the Nigerian Army has is 200,000 personnel. The Air Force,
I very much doubt
I doubt it too.
I doubt it.
Even as at 2016, they are claiming 200,000. The Air Force,
are they the ones claiming, or someone
No, that is what was available as the statistics. The Air Force saying 15,000 active personnel.
15?
Yes.
They are not up to 200.
So, and then
I know that very well.
We say to ourselves, this country, as large as it is, how do you want this number of personnel? to
And we have the capacity to
take
do
care
more.
No, it was Buhari. It was Babangida that reduced.
Yes, it
number
was
of soldiers.
reduced drastically along the line.
He said you don't need a large army in peacetime.
Deliberately.
That was his
Yes,
argument then.
It's
But
deliberate.
you see, the intention was to put greater accent on regime protection than protection of the state. So he was like, why do you need a large army? This is our neighbors are friendly. The kind of war that that is being waged against Nigeria now, they never envisaged it.
No.
They just felt that
20 years ago
we had peace with our neighbors. So to that extent, why do we need a large army? That's the way we looked at it.
Yes, forgetting that.
And then it began to decimate even the Air Force, cannibalize their equipment and all that. So this is why we are where we are.
But let me quickly add to this.
And we did not even recruit too into the
Yes,
army
we
for a
stopped.
long
Yes.
time.
Stop. Okay.
Yes, until this man came, Hejirika. It was Hejirika that now recruited about 11,000 soldiers in 2000 and
We stopped recruitment for a long
for a
time.
long time.
Dotun?
Let me also add that the whole issue of security is wider than also limiting it to recruitment of personnel. Because even if you have the personnel,
Abi?
we should be sure that even those we are recruiting, they are not the ones who are going to give us trouble. Which is why the issue of ensuring that we recruit the right
The
people,
right people.
and also ensuring that those who are not even in the military,
Stringent.
they are getting what they should in order not to turn into criminals. How many people have we created jobs for in the last?
Okay.
This year, 2 million people have taken the JAMB form to write the UTME.
How many people will be absorbed into the
They will
university?
absorb some of them, and then they are coming out at the other end. No job, no nothing. So are we not breeding criminals?
We have to leave
So
it there. Moving on now. Now, amidst the blame game rocking the power sector in Nigeria, the federal government has tasked the electricity distribution companies, or DISCOs, to sit up or quit. The Minister of Power, Salah Maman, who spoke with newsmen in Abuja, said the DISCOs have failed in supplying adequate electricity to Nigeria, with their failure to buy and distribute adequate power generated for them by the generation companies, or GENCOs. As such, government will no longer provide intervention funds as a subsidy to them. The days of reckoning are here. Jide, this is a critical sector, and we've been undergoing some kind of illumination. So when, okay, I think my producer is saying the minister would like to play his insert.
In this country, that we cannot get electricity supplied adequately or efficiently, it is because we have a problem in distribution. Generation, no much problem. We can generate up to 13,000, I said. But the transmission, those who are taking the electricity supply, can only take 7,000. And even at that, they are not collecting the 7,000, they only collect 4,500 and then send to distribution. Distribution now receive only 3,000.
The blame game is on, but Babajide, our DISCOs, how would you assess them?
Yeah,
Can you give what you don't have?
the DISCOs don't have capacity. They need about 4.3 billion capital injection before the DISCOs can function.
4.3 billion naira.
Yeah, dollars. $4.3 billion capital injection. Virtually everything that they use in the power sector is imported, whether it's transmission lines, everything. So it's not, I'm not talking about naira at all. They need about 4.3 billion to capital injection before they can be where we want them to be. The Gencos have done well. They've been injecting into the sector or the subsector, but the discos are not really doing that, because if you have a piece of business in your hands and you know that you need to do this to get to this level, and you are refusing to spend that money. We spent about 1.5 trillion on the power sector since President Buhari got to office, just trying to reflate them, a form of subsidy for these guys. After we sold power assets to them, we continue to feed them, give them money. Yet we are not achieving the results, because we have seen clearly that the capacity is not there.
They brought in investors, they brought in people.
What kind of investors? What kind of investors did they bring?
We shouldn't forget where we are coming from.
People who are, look at the people who bought the Gencos, for example. They were not people who had been in that sector for years.
Have been players.
Some of them are bankers, this and that. Did the Siemens of this world, the General Electrics of this world, did they come to buy power assets in Nigeria? The answer is no. Because if those ones had come, they would have come with the capacity that we all know that they have. But this is not what is happening now.
Individuals just...
And the truth is, if we do not do something drastic, it will only get worse, because we cannot have improvement unless the discos have sufficient capital injection, and they cannot provide that capital.
Before I come to you, Dotun, you have Jide, you are talking about government doing something drastic. Don't also forget that there's also a clause in their contracts.
That is why I'm saying that. Some Nigerians will think that it's so easy to merely send them packing. You can't
Tell Nigerians, though.
No, even the BP says that some time ago. It is in the contract that if we choose to terminate,
Yes.
then we should be ready to pay $8 billion to them
For
the cost of buying the power assets, and then you pay interest of 20%.
$8 billion.
So they know this was deliberately. I don't know,
injected into that.
The kind of contract that we sign with these people is unparalleled anywhere. Where you sold stuff to someone and you are the one who continues to give that person money. I mean, I've never heard of it before.
Yes, I think for me, that is why we should not forget where we are coming from. If we recollect very clearly, the former Minister of National Planning during former President Goodluck Jonathan's regime,
Shamsuddin.
yes, Shamsuddin Usman, spoke clearly when he said they sold those things to themselves. And we should also not forget that in our parties in Nigeria, there are no ideologies. There are no specifics. All we want to do is gravitate where the power lies. So when you look at those people who were in the People's Democratic Party then, who bought those things, they have gravitated towards the All Progressive Congress, meaning that
they are covered.
Once you come into our party, as the national chairman said, even if you are a thief, you have become a saint. That's, for me, is what is happening. The discos were bought by the politicians in PDP, most of whom have now moved into the APC. And for me, I don't see so much happening with the situation we are in. We are just there. We are stuck.
The contract is...
That is why that is why it's so difficult since almost 2-3 years now that they have been told, meter everybody. Nobody is doing anything. Nobody is getting sanctioned.
No, they will not meter everybody. They will not meter everybody because one.
So
they also believe that the tariff currently is not cost effective.
yes,
and you have to admit that that is true. At the present rate, they can't make the sort of money that they want to make.
Yes.
The discos are owing Transmission Company of Nigeria 440 billion.
There.
Yes, so
Yes.
yes, so they do not have sufficient capital to drive
What are they
this
doing
process.
with the money they are making from Nigerians?
If you go back to what the World Bank said, that look, you need capital injection of not less than $10 billion on a sustainable basis for at least 5 years before we can solve our power problem. So when you look, it's a very capital intensive sector. It's a very capital intensive sector.
And we should
I'll
not.
take-
We should also have it at the back.
Doesn't hold on. Let me just pay this bill. We'll come back. We'll talk more. Please stay with us. So,
I was just going to say that we shouldn't forget that all these figures we have been mentioning, they are also going to come back to Nigerians who gradually are losing their buying power. The spending power is going down. So if we want to pump as much as $10 billion into the power sector, we have this, we have that. Who are those that are going to pay for it, for these discos and Gencos to recoup? It's a major issue that we need to deal with. We need to get the economy right. If an average worker is still earning, say, 40, 50,000 naira, and you expect him to be able to pay what is commensurate for these discos to survive, then I don't see that happening. I really don't see it. Because what we are paying now, from what they are saying, is too little. If it's too little, then how do you make ends meet?
that if you want to bring it up, you'll have problem with Nigerians.
And then the Nigerians are not even earning so much
No,
to be able to pay.
I think that the government should not intervene in the electricity tariff. I don't think it's right. If the people can afford it, those are the people who should get supplied.
It should be liberalized.
Yes, if you need to hands off from the issue of tariff, because if they cannot make money, you then will be forced to give them more money
Bailouts.
to reflate the sector. So it's a form of subsidy
Regularly.
that you are paying. I don't think
It's
that,
almost the same thing.
I don't think
With
that
petrol.
yes, if you look at all the money that we've been giving these people,
It's just like petrol.
so it's like subsidy. We are subsidizing that sector. Let them determine appropriate pricing, and those who can afford, they will pay. But the discourse should be told to find partners, to inject money into their business, because they are not doing that. And we see Gencos injecting money into their business, but these discos are not doing that. There is no solution unless they expand capacity. The same thing with TCN. TCN too should do their best to freshen up the grid and expand capacity. A situation in which you give discos power generated and they say no, this is too much. Just give me, don't give me 50 megawatts and 20 is enough for me. That's not right. That's not right. It's not good for us. And that is what is happening. And that's what the minister and other people are angry about, because when discos are complaining, just bring out the figures to show how much was willed to them and then how much they took. So you see a wide gulf, and it's happening like that all over. They claim that in some parts of the country where you want them to supply electricity, that they don't get paid, that they would rather supply those who pay. Well, I think in the end that the whole power sector thing, we have to take a holistic look at it. Let's even liberalize it. Let states be able to generate. We can say, okay, if every state generates like 100 megawatts, we'll go far. Let's liberalize it so that whoever I can buy electricity from you, you can buy from me. It's possible.
To take sustained investments for the federal government to actually
do it.
I want to thank you, Dotun.
Thank
you
you so
for your outing today. Thank you.
so much.
And BKO, thank you for always being there. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the replay broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalist Hangouts on our platforms showing on the screen. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.